for tuning back into another video of educational word derivations. And so what we were talking about a little bit in the last video was that the Scythians, there's a lot of evidence that they sprang up at the exact time that the Israelites seem to have disappeared. Okay, and that would be Sharon Turner's evidence for why they are the Israelites are the Scythians. Okay, and I told y'all about the verse about I will make you a new threshing sledge, which I wish I had chapter and verse on that. But so the word Scythian. So now we're going to do a little more word on the word Scythians, and I think it's really neat. And like I'm trying to tell y'all the idea that the word research, I think, tells us a story. All right, so of what happened and even what's going to happen. Okay, so we get the word scattered. We showed that from the first chapter of James and Peter that the word scatter is probably related to the word Scythians. And let's see how could the word scatter be related to the word Scythians. Okay, so and the word scythe, remember scythe is the thing they're going to cut the wheat with. Okay, which they did. I saw a documentary about how this people prospered was because they were able to grow wheat. But anyway, so what was I going with that? It's just that scythe means to cut. Okay, but one of the things about this, you see the SCT in here. You see the CT is our word cut. And a lot of SCT words have something to do with cutting. Alright, so I'm just going to look at those words really quick. And I've written them, I don't know if you can see these or not, I've just written them down. We've got scoot and scutter and scurry. And so these people, if they were leaving Assyria, if they had to leave in any kind of quick way or to escape, okay, on contrary to the Jewish people who were sent back by the king of Persia, okay, or the king of Babylon, he sent them back to Judah. But the Israelites, on the other hand, very well may have had to scurry and scutter along and scuttle and scoot, and all those words are sort of telling us part of the story about what happened, and in my opinion, all right, and that's part of how they became scattered was because they scurried. Okay, and then this caused a schism. They already had a schism going. There was already separation going because of the fact that they were they were taken away from Israel, or they were taken away from the land of Israel, and and then when they scattered, they got separated from each other. So there was a schism, and our word scissors is related to that, and secret, because a secret is something that's divided because one person knows it and another person doesn't. Okay, and discreet is the same kind of word, kind of meaning, is that you're not showing everything for discreet or discretion. Scapula and I think and sculpture are related to the same thing. Sculpture would be something that's created because of the scapula. Scrape probably is in the whole family of words. Scrub, because when you scrub, you remove a layer. You're separating a layer off. Skate would even be because there's a blade there, and it's going to go between two little pieces of ice. Well, of course, the word cut, and then I've got the word sculpt here. So those are just a few of the family of words that would be related to our word cut, and then this other word, this is scythe, which would be a cutting implement. Okay, so all this is what you might think of as like a little family. Here's some of the children, but it points to the parent word. Okay, you've got a lot of evidence here that these are all related, so it's going to point to a parent word, and that's how they actually end up figuring out the Pi languages, which is called a Proto-Indonesian, Indo-European word. And I'm going to explain that in just a minute. Okay, but here's another connection that I wanted to make for y'all, is that while the Scythians were separated and they were cut off and they scooted away and they scattered, they're also going to be brought back together. Okay, so if you look at how the names of the different tribes developed, it leads us to another group of words. So we have the scattered, goes to the Scythians and Scythe. Okay, but then some of the people groups were called the Scudi, the Goudi, the Scots, the Goths, and you hear the similarities, and between languages the letters will change just a little bit. You hear the similarities. Well, so what about the prophecy that those people are going to be regathered, and that they gathered in the Caucasus Mountains, and that our word caucus means to gather, and to have an assembly, to have a meeting, to come to a meeting of the minds. Well, our word gather, if you look it up in the online etymological dictionary, which is actually based on Webster's work, he actually learned like 26 or 27 languages in order to put the etymologies together. So it's really fantastic work that he did. And the further let me skip that point. And so the word gather, if you look it up, they will tell you that it comes from what's called P-I-E, Pi Indo-European, which is Gudh, G-U-D-H. Now they made that word. What they did was they got all the different languages that were represented in, Germanic, Celtic, Gaelic, even Spanish would be European, Portuguese, they get Norse, they get all those languages and they kind of put them together in whatever letters went out and have the most representation. Then they kind of make this new word from it. So this is a made-up word. Okay, but anyway, so they say that the gather comes from this Gudh. And then they point to it. You can go look this up on the online etymological dictionary. They point to the fact that the word good is related to the word gather. Okay, if you go look up good, then they tell you that good comes from the word gothas. So now, don't you think that's pretty good support? Do you think that could be pretty good support for the fact? So it's interesting they have gather coming from Gudha and good coming from gothas. And they tell you that this is Proto-Germanic, for whatever that's worth. But you can see the word Goth here, which is one of the people groups, and actually they will tell you that this word good was just G-O-D, but pronounced with a long O sound. So now I think it's really interesting that they tell you that the word good is not related to the word God, even though they tell you that they do not know where the word God came from. And they will tell you, even though it's spelt like our word God, they will tell you that they don't know where God came from, the word God, and that it's not related to the word good. Okay, so I'm going to make a disagreement with that. Since they say they don't know, I propose that we have evidence here to support that it is from the word good. And I think that there can be deception sometimes, and that they're not, they know where they really don't want us. They have another thing called etymological fallacy, because they know that some people, scholars, could be studying and like to use root words and going back to the Greek and the Hebrew, and they like that people can actually make pretty good foundational support for other things. And I think that there's a scientific group that knows that maybe we don't want people to think this, and so they came up with this thing called etymological fallacy. Used to be, though, that people followed, I don't know what the study of it is, I want to call it, I don't know what it's called. I would say etymological, but they could trace people groups through the transitions of language, and it used to be a science, and I'm sure it still is. But they want to take that away by calling etymological fallacy. But anyway, so you can see what I'm proposing here. is that not only do we get the word gather, okay, so the people were scattered, they were cut off, but then they regathered, and this group that gathered together, just like the Bible tells us that they're going to gather together, okay, I remember seeing a movie, I can't think of what it's called, but they would call the people Goody somebody, and like that was like a title. But anyway, I think that God is related to this, and they were the people of God. The people who were gathering together were the people of God, and that's pretty much all I'm going to say about that. Because you know, I don't want to make the videos too long. I know I've been pretty long-winded in the past, but you know, what I'm not doing is supporting a lot of this with what you would find in the dictionaries, and doing a whole lot of that right now. You know, if this interests you, you can go look it up yourself and confirm it yourself, and you will find actually so many other kind of interwrapping things that it can get almost overwhelming how much things overlap and concur. But I haven't done that. I'm just leaving that up to y'all to do. But I think that, you know, if somebody had told you this when you were young, you'd be like, oh yeah, that's really cool. So I guess that's all I'm going to say. I'll try to just cut off here. Thanks.